some of the movement snacks that we did in our mobility sessions. So first of all, we're going to start with the shoulders. I'm going to do this kneeling on the floor, but ideally do this standing up, bare feet, so you can really get those feet feeling the floor. So we're going to just start with shrugs. I would definitely do more than I'm doing here, but I'm just going to show you the sequence. So we're going to go shrugging to the ears, pushing down to the floor. Then the next one we're going to do circles. I'm going backwards with circles with the shoulders, everything else staying still, and then circles forward. Then we're going to put our hands on our shoulders and make those circles a little bit bigger, backwards and then forwards. And then finally finishing off with full arm, big circles. You might get some clonks, don't worry. And then the other way. So you could do this for a good three minutes or so. So that's our sequence of the mobility. Now we're going to get a little bit more specific. So again, I'm going to show you here on my knees. But ideally you want to picture yourself in a vat of cement, in a wheelie bin. You're going to have your arms straight out ahead of you. Now what we're going to do, we're going to bring the shoulders up to the ears, as high as you can. Push forward towards the wall in front of you. Then we're going to bring them right down and then bring them back and really squeeze those shoulder blades as if you're gripping a pencil. And then up and then forward and then down and then back. So do this for maybe 5 times and then reverse it. So have a think about what you need to do. I'm now down, I'm going to go forward, I'm going to come up, I'm going to come back and then down. So it's like a square movement. Okay, so that's our shoulder mobility. So that could be one little movement snack. Next we're going to do our cat-cow. So the cat-cow is where we're on all fours. We're in what's called a tabletop position. You want a nice neutral spine to start with, as if you're balancing your tea tray on your back. Now what we're going to do, we're going to start at the pelvis. So you want to tuck the pelvis in, which is going to start arching the back. Think about vertebrae by vertebrae, all the way up. As you get to your neck, you can tuck your head in and look through your knees and really push up with those shoulders as if you're trying to get something off your back. And that is our cat position. Now driving from the pelvis first, you're going to stick the bottom out, then you're going to arch that back vertebrae by vertebrae. You can go slower than I'm going now. And then eventually you come up to the shoulders, you're going to squeeze those shoulder blades again. And then just look straight ahead. Don't put too much tension on the neck. But you want a nice arch in the spine. The arms are straight. You're pushing down into the floor so you can squeeze the shoulder blades as much as you can. And then drive it from the pelvis again. So tuck that pelvis under. You're going to start arching that back up, 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 up until you get to the shoulders. And then you look through the knees. So I would say 5 of those is a good movement snack. You can make it as slow as you want. So the next one is the thread through sequence. So let me just adjust my mat slightly. So with this one, we can do alternate sides, and I would suggest 3 to 5 each side. So we're in our tabletop again, so just make sure that you're in a nice neutral spine. Keep looking to the floor to start with. So you're going to bring that hand down to the floor as if you're trying to get your armpit to the floor. Then you're going to come back up, and as you do, you're going to stretch out to the side so you'll feel a twist in the spine. And then you're going to thread this hand through, and the palm's going to be facing the ceiling, and you try and get your shoulder to the floor. And then you come back up, and then you come back down. We'll just do the other side. So we're going to push forward, get that armpit to the floor. We're going to come up, open out. Then you're going to thread that hand through. The other arm bends. You try and get the shoulder to the floor, the palms to the ceiling. Then you come up, and then you come back down to your tabletop. 3 or 5 of those each side is a nice little movement snack. Okay, next we can go on to our driving up our hips. So this one here, we're going to be in tabletop position. You can bring your knees slightly forward. Make sure those arms are really straight. If you want to make it a little bit more difficult, you can start with your knees off the ground. I'm going to do this with my knees off the ground, but by all means keep your knees on the ground. So what we're going to do, we're just going to drive up into something called bear position. So we're going to get those knees off the ground. So I want you to drive the hips up, look between the arms, try and look at those knees, pushing the floor away. Back. Put the knees down if you need to, but if not, push up again and back. Push up again and back. So I would suggest you do that for at least 4 or 5 times. We can then start making it a little bit more interesting. So you can, a nice one for the hips is that you drive the hip out. This is a bit like the dog leg. So to start with, you could just literally bring out those hips either side. Then you could keep your knees on the floor. You could drive up and then bring your knee out as you're up here. The next option is that you can keep your knees on the floor and you can drive up and get that leg up straight away. And the final option, which is the most tricky, is that you can start on all fours with your knees an inch off the ground, and then you can drive that leg up and drive that hip out. Come back, knees off the ground and up. Take it at your own pace. See if you can start moving from one to the other. Another one that we did is that we did our stretching, so we can come back onto our heels, knees wide apart, and we're going to stretch forward into what we call baby loaded beast. So this is a nice stretch for the shoulders. Then you can walk out to the side, walk back, walk out to the other side, and walk back. Then we can actually bring our weight forward here. So again, the knees can stay on the floor, and then you just bring the weight forward on top of your wrists. Keep that core engaged, keep that pelvis tucked in. You want to keep that pelvis tucked in to protect the lower back. We don't want any arches in the back. Then you come back down. And you can come forward. And you can come back down. That's a nice one to do. If you're doing them all in a sequence, that's a nice one to do at the end, but it can be a movement snack in itself. Another one we're going to do is our crab position. So you can sit with your knees at right angles and your hands facing behind you. See if you can get the hands as close together, sort of level with your shoulders, no closer than that, but really try and grip. If you need to be out here, that's fine, but be here. So we're in a crab position. So there's 2 things we can do from here. We can bring the bottom towards the heels, and that is just going to be stretching those shoulders. You can keep the bottom on the floor, or if you want to make it more tricky, you can keep the bottom off the floor and see if you can bring the bottom to the knees with an inch off the floor. So this is a nice stretch for the shoulders. If you want to take it up a gear, you can do a upside down tabletop. That's my name for it. And you can just drive up those hips into a 4-point bridge here. So try and get them as high as possible. This is really good for the hips, really good for the shoulders. You'll feel it in those shoulders. So there's lots of progressions we can do from here with one arm, but let's just take it slowly. So we're just going to drive up to that 4-point bridge. Okay, last one for this session. We can do a nice hip opener. If you're sitting at your desk all day, those hip flexors get tight. So there's a position called a shin box, so you can sit on the floor with like an Isle of Man legs. To start with, you can be leaning back, and you just want to really just windscreen wiper those legs. So you should feel that in the hip flexors. So that's just a nice start. What you can then start doing is you can start seeing if you can start moving one leg, but then see how long it takes to get the other leg up. So this is a really nice hip opener. You can then make it a little bit more tricky by bringing the hands off the floor, or keep the hands on the floor and your back more upright. And then finally, you can see if you can bring the hands in front of you, and that you can actually do this without the hands behind you. All good hip openers, wherever your hands are, just make sure that you feel that you're giving yourself a little stretch. So there's another little movement snack for the hips. You can do any combination of those, and hopefully that's helped you to have an idea for some that you can do just on your own.